My name's Sawyer Newman. Would definitely consider myself a bodybuilder. 25 years old. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, which I didn't grow up here. I grew up north in Pennsylvania, but I really love it down here and just love everything about it. And yeah, just excited to be on here. Excited to tell people more about what I do and just how I go about my passion for bodybuilding and how I deal with different strengths and weaknesses amongst it, and just everything that kind of got me started.
Yeah. So how did you actually get into the world of fitness?
Yeah, so I mean, growing up, it's probably like a somewhat similar story to a lot of people, but growing up, I've always been into like sports, playing sports. I played soccer and lacrosse in high school, played baseball like when I was young. But it was just kind of like a very similar thing to a lot of people, where once I stopped playing those sports in high school because I wasn't talented enough to go to the next level in terms of athletics, I was seeking a way to stay in shape, just not let myself go, because I could watch it happen to a lot of people. And I always said to myself, I don't want that to happen to me. So how can I do that? So I just found, I mean, I was always like a relatively skinnier person. So I was like, you know what, I'll start lifting. And I mean, I didn't start bodybuilding right off the bat, but I definitely started lifting. And once you start seeing those results, man, it gets addicting, and like you kind of just you run with it. So it was a great escape for me. There's a way for me to stay competitive like I was in sports, stay competitive with myself, because it's always you against you in the world of like bodybuilding and just like lifting. So it's always fun to like challenge yourself to get better the next day, try to do more weight the next workout, just improve overall on a lot of aspects of it. So that was kind of what got me all into it.
Did you have somebody to go with you, or was it just kind of you?
When I first started, like, yeah, I always would seek out, because people that did lift a lot, and like you could see, like, you always like seek out the guy who looks bigger, because like, he's, or girl, the guy or girl who are both lifting, and they just seem to know like what they're doing. When you first walk into the gym the first time, it's very intimidating. So it's nice to have someone that knows what they're doing and can guide you along the way. So I definitely would bounce back and forth. I was almost like, I still am today. I'm always willing to work out with anybody that wants to push and like go and like give it their all. So I love working out with people. Sometimes working out by yourself, there is a time and a purpose if you are on a time crunch or you just need to get something done. But I'm a big fan of working out with other people, and I always did throughout college, which is where I first started my lifting journey.
I kind of have the same experience or similar experience, at least. And, I started pretty much lifting weights in college. I had a little bit of experience, had some dumbbells and things at the house, but as far as like really going to the gym and lifting and actually having a solid plan, things like that, it was college. And, for me, it was kind of this thing to where I wouldn't say homesick, but I would just say like filling out of place a little bit. What's my role here? Like, what do I do with my life in this phase? And I feel like for me, fitness and lifting weights was just such a good avenue to go down, and it's something I was interested in anyway. And, first taking that step into the gym was really hard, like you said. And even though I knew some stuff, it was still like, I don't know these people. I obviously am not in shape like these people. And
It's easy to feel intimidated, and it's easy to feel like everyone in the gym is watching you. And like until you are like kind of at that advanced stage, you realize, wow, no one ever really was watching me,
yeah,
because no one cares. Everyone's just in there to worry about themselves. And if someone's in there worrying about other people, they're not in there for the right reasons, and that's not the person you need to worry about anyway.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here just for a second. Let me tell you about Smoking Gun Coffee. They're a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to produce a quality coffee at an affordable price. They only buy coffee from small coffee farmers around the world with a cup score of at least 85. Each batch is roasted to order for maximum freshness. They also donate a large portion of their proceeds to organizations that help local communities, veterans, first responders, or you can donate to the foundation of your choice at the checkout by going to www.smokingguncoffee.com. That's SMOKIN Gun Coffee.
definitely. And so how long, usually you have this period in your lifting journey, or really, I guess, any fitness to where you make such great progress, it's the newbie gains or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Did you hit those and then hit that kind of that plateau, or were you lucky enough to like what kind of wise up and be like, I need to learn how to get over this before it happened?
Yeah, no, of course. Like if I think I definitely experienced those newbie gains And they're so addicting because that, like, you go from 0 to 100, everyone's noticing, people are commenting. And like, that's what I think that's great because it kind of is what keeps you going. But as time, that's where it gets hard because you stop getting those comments because progress does slow. And it definitely did slow for me as well. It is always going. Like, the best way I always tell people, like, to see change in yourself, it's hard because you wake up and you see yourself in the mirror every day. You're seeing yourself. So you don't see that change. But when you do look back over time, a lot of times you'll really surprise yourself. And the best thing I can ever tell to someone that is scared of a plateau or really thinks that they're plateauing is to just be consistent, keep going, and just, you really have to trust the process because over time, like, it will happen. And as long as you're executing everything properly, then you are, a lot of times when people think they are plateauing, they are progressing, but it's just at a much slower rate, so they don't realize it. When you're like, well, what am I doing wrong now that I wasn't doing before? And the answer is nothing. It's just your body adapting. And yeah, I would always switch programs. I think when I first got into fitness, it was probably 2015. Yeah, it was 2015, 2016 when the Instagram space of fitness wasn't really that big yet. There were like those bigger names on there, like Steve Cook, like Julian Smith, like some of those guys that were big. But even like in retrospect to now, like, because they're so big, but they were still relatively small in terms of their following. But they were like the people that would always pop up in the fitness space. So I remember I would always watch them and watch their videos, watch what they were doing, try to mimic their workouts. When in reality, probably doing what you are saying, what allows you to be the most consistent and on track day in and day out is the best route. I think the first workout plan I ever followed was like the bodybuilding.com Arnold Schwarzenegger one. And hey, I mean, it worked. Like, it's one of those things where, just like you said, like, there is no secret program. It's just when you go in there and you work out the targeted muscle groups and you're doing everything with their correct form, you're going to make that progress. So there is no, like, there's not one program that's ever better than another. It's just like any type of work is going to be beneficial to you and your body. It's almost like we both like kind of struggled with the same problem, but everyone is very insecure about like their gym progress and everything they do. So they don't talk about it. So it's cool. Like now when we could see both of ourselves that do have more experience to be able to laugh about how we both kind of were dealing with the same thing, but like you never talked to anyone about it.
So how did you get into bodybuilding? What made you want to like step into that whole new, arena of fitness?
Yeah, so it was definitely new to me. So so bodybuilding for me is very new. I have been lifting for about 6.5 years. I started like when I first went to college, but I wasn't a bodybuilder in college. I was just lifting and like enjoying weights. But it wasn't until after I graduated college, and it was almost like the same thing again, where I said, okay, I'm working now. I have a career. Like, how can I stay active, because stay competitive and do something that's going to keep myself, keep pushing myself, like, to get better every day. And obviously being into lifting, like, you always see the people that do bodybuild, and it is enticing because you want to, you think that you could do it. You want to show off. So what got me into bodybuilding was kind of just that headspace of like wanting something to challenge myself, and me just talking to other people that have done it before and telling me that they think I could be successful in it. So it kind of sparked my interest in it. And then when I really started doing it, changed my training, got a coach, and followed their plan, that I really did fall in love with it. And I love every aspect of it for a lot of reasons, just from like meeting people, seeing that discipline in myself, and yeah, just staying competitive. I love being competitive. I'm a competitive person. I love playing sports, anything competitive. Like you and I could like say like who could run to that mailbox faster, and like I'll be like, deal, like let's do it. Yeah. It's kind of like one of those things. I just love being competitive. So that's kind of what got me into it. It allowed me to take my passion for health and fitness and turn it into a sport.
Did you go to the coach route like right away?
So it's funny. So the way I did it at first was I had hired a coach more for a lifestyle change, where I wanted to just cut. I wanted to get lean. But for some reason, whatever I was doing, I felt like I couldn't do it myself. And it could have been the accountability aspect. And then when I started to lean down with the physique that I had with the coach, just lifestyle wise, he also had coached people with bodybuilding. And he's the one who had introduced it to me and said, hey, like maybe you should try like going after a show, and like I think you would do really well. And that's exactly what I said. It took talking to other people. So he's the one that kind of got me into it. And then I went through a prep with him, did my first show, and I really did love the process of it.
Did you have any realizations about yourself or about, why you're doing it or like anything like that while you were in that first prep?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's because you put yourself in a position that you've never put yourself in before. Because there are times when and a lot of it revolves around food, because you are hungry and you do need to decrease food. And for the first time ever, maybe for people that are in this fitness spectrum, you have to say, oh, I'm hungry, but I can't go eat what I want. I can't go eat if I'm hungry. I can only eat when I should eat. And yeah, that can get really tough, and it tests your mental toughness a lot. And you do learn a lot about yourself. You learn some of your limits, like how far you can go. But just like anyone else, my first prep, I do remember kind of being about like 7 weeks out, and I was like, do I really want to do this? I considered like dropping out, not doing it at all. But I ended up going through with it because I've never quit anything in my life, so I wasn't going to start there.
Did it feel almost like a little bit? I never thought about it until you said it. I never thought about it in this way. Did it feel like a prisoner a little bit? Like I want something that is right there, but I just can't have it in a way?
Yeah, without a doubt. Every time you drive past a fast food restaurant, and like you've had that before, and or you walk, you're walking around like just trying to be active, like be social with people that aren't in the bodybuilding, and they are out eating food, and you smell their food, you smell their burgers, you smell their fries. It's like right there, and like people eating meals right in front of you, and it's like it's so close, and like you just have to say, no, you know what, I don't need it. The prisoner aspect of it, I've never really thought about it that way either. But you kind of are a prisoner of prep, of the process, if that makes sense. Have you ever gone through a show yourself?
I haven't. It's interesting
Okay.
because I'm really into the sport. Like even before I really got into fitness, I was always kind of like a huge Arnold fan. It was always something to me that was like beyond though. Before I got into the podcast, it was always something that was like out there, but I never even really thought about putting myself into that. And now it's more of like, okay, maybe I could see myself going through that experience, just having that experience and just seeing where it takes me.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend it if you think you're ready and think you mentally are ready to go through it. Everything's in order. But yeah, I mean, it can be a great time, but it can also be a tough time. It's one of those things where you'll never know until you try. But it is fun to test your limits and see how it is fun when you do bodybuild and are in the fitness to see how lean you can get to bring out that muscle to show exactly how hard you've worked all these years. Everything like accumulates. It's kind of like revealing like the final finished product, which can be fun. Also, I was going to say my coach that I work with right now, he's an awesome coach. Like I would recommend him to anyone. He's super knowledgeable. He's the best coach I've ever had, but he's never competed in bodybuilding before or done a show. And he was telling me he doesn't think he ever wants to because he thinks he loves what he does with coaching and prepping other people, but he thinks it may take away from the experience of doing it if he did it himself. So he's not sure that he ever wants to. And that's totally fine too. The guy is a cookie cutter bodybuilder. He looks like a bodybuilder, eats like a bodybuilder, lives like a bodybuilder, but he just doesn't necessarily want to compete. And that's totally okay too.
That's interesting. Part of me, talking to so many bodybuilders, it's something that I don't want to go into and not do it justice to the sport. I don't want to necessarily just get into it to be a person who just gets into it. I really want to dedicate myself to it.
Yeah, you got to make sure you want to do it. That's for sure.
Kind of in a little bit of a similar way, 75 hard was a little bit of the kind of like a super discipline thing, that I went through recently. But I just really like challenges. I really like, kind of like you said before, just finding, pushing yourself and finding out what you're capable of. I think that's something that we don't do very much, as humans these days. It's just like we're stuck in this glue of, going to work, getting home, eating dinner, watching TV, going to sleep, and repeat.
It's very easy to get yourself into doing that. But that's another thing where, like I said, it is fun to test yourself too.
Definitely.
See what you're capable of.
When you started bodybuilding though, did you have any family, did you have any friends that were like questioning you? Like, they didn't necessarily understand what bodybuilding was, and they just kind of have the stereotypical like thoughts about bodybuilding that they maybe were a little bit scared for you or something?
Yeah, I think anyone's gonna get that. Even if it's not bodybuilding and just being really into fitness, you're gonna deal with people that just don't understand, and they don't even realize how negative they can be sometimes without saying anything negative, but just they realize like you're eating on a plan, like even if you're not on prep and like you just don't want to eat a piece of cake because you don't think it's gonna be conducive to your goals, but you have that family member who said, "Oh, why aren't you gonna eat a piece of cake? Are you're too good for it?" It's like things like that. It's kind of like subtle things where you're like, "Well, why can't I just choose not to? Why is that not okay with you?" And it's something like I always say people will almost like there's fat shaming. I think there's fit shaming where people like to make people that are more fit than others feel uncomfortable for some reason. I don't know if it makes them feel better about themselves, but it's definitely a real thing. And it can be hard mentally. Like it can be challenging. Luckily for me, my family members are very on board and supportive. Anytime I go home, my mom will ask me what I want in the house to eat, what kind of foods I want, if I'm going to be very strict when I'm home, if I'm not going to be very strict, depending on what phase of my goals I'm at. So yeah, my family has been very supportive, but I know for some people they do struggle with other people in their lives not being supportive. And that could be really hard because it is something that you want to dedicate your time to and you do enjoy doing, but it's hard when the people you surround yourself with don't want the same thing for you. It's hard to not let it bother you, but you do have to remember at times that like kind of when people don't understand it, you just have to realize that they don't understand it, and that's okay. But it can be a challenge to not let that get to you mentally.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
What kind of challenges did you starting bodybuilding? What kind of challenges did you face that you kind of didn't really see coming? Did you have anything? Because going from lift, just, being somebody who likes to lift and maybe be healthy to a bodybuilding, is there, there's definitely some differences there. Did you have any like challenging things?
I think the one challenge I have faced, and it kind of stems off what we just talked about, is the social aspect of it. You don't realize until you are on a prep or you are on a diet that you're trying to follow how many things people do together socially revolve around food, alcohol, drinks, and you don't realize it until it's something that you're worried about and being meticulous about. And that's probably the biggest challenge, because anytime like you do something that isn't necessarily on your plan, like it could deviate you off, and like it can be hard mentally. But I'm a big believer that sometimes like you only get one life and you got to live it, and you have to have a good balance between like what's going to make you happy. Like if you're really getting upset with yourself that you are feeling left out by not being able to go do those things, then you shouldn't do that. Like you shouldn't do that to yourself, because that's not healthy mentally. Everyone has friends that aren't into it, and like you have those people that you grew up with in high school that you are still friends with, and most people weren't into bodybuilding when they were in high school, so like they're still doing those things, and you want to retain those friendships because those are the core of like where you started and where you began. I found a good way to deal with it myself by not letting it bother me anymore, and just finding ways around it to make it work for myself. And I've been very successful with it now. And I feel like I can be social too and still be on track with my goals.
How do you find the time? And that's such a big question, not just in bodybuilding, but in fitness in general. People always, that's like one of the top 2 or 3 probably things that people use as an excuse. I don't have the time. How do you do that?
Yeah. So I'm actually a registered nurse. So I am kind of fortunate in a way, because I do tend to only work 3 days a week out of the 7. Granted, it can be any day of the week that I work, but I do have 4 days off of work, which allows me to be very on point and on track with my goals. But I do also need to work out some of those days that I am working. And it is hard to do after I do work a 12-hour shift, because I work 12-hour shifts. I'll work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And right when I get off work, I go right to the gym and I just do it. And I think part of the biggest thing is a mindset. I understand everyone's going to have different responsibilities. I'm a single guy right now. I don't have any kids. I don't have any pets. So I do have luxuries that allow me to focus more on my goals, but other people don't have that. So it definitely can be different for some people other than me. And I think the biggest thing that I would say for anyone is just finding a routine that works best for your lifestyle and your job that's going to allow you to stay the most on track. If someone does work 5 days a week, like say a 9 to 5 job, and they have kids, they'll say they can only get to the gym 3 days a week. So one of those days because they're busy with their kids, and then on the weekends, like that's still going to be beneficial to you. It's the thing, you just don't want to give it up 100%. You want to stay dedicated. You want to reach your goals. You want to have that mindset that you want to achieve something. And I think all of us do have the time to do it. Granted, there are people that do work some insane hours, but you also have to realize if you are working all those hours and fitness is important to you, maybe finding a job that allows you to be more in touch with your fitness and your overall lifestyle might be better. And I understand that's a hard thing to say because some people may not necessarily have those opportunities, but I think there always are ways to work around things to make them work for yourself.
There's so much time within a day if you just can sit down and kind of like you said, make a routine, say this is when I'm going to do this, and just do it. Stick to the program of what you say your life is going to be like. And it just goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of like, you're going to see the results. You're going to see the results start to kick in. Whenever you stick to a routine and become disciplined, really cool things happen.
Yeah. And I definitely think like with like social media and the ease of technology nowadays, it can be difficult for people because we're so quick to hop on our phones, hop on our computers, just go on Instagram, scrolling through. And like, it's so easy to lose. I'm sure it's all happened to all of us. It's so easy to lose 30 minutes and you're like, wow, I just scrolled through Instagram for 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes, you could have been walking on the treadmill, scrolling through Instagram. And then like you're helping your fitness goals, just things like that. So I definitely think technology has been more difficult for it at times too. But like you said, and like I said, I think once you have that mindset and that routine that works and you do stick to it, you will see those results roll in and you'll realize that, oh, this is working for me. So this is what I need to keep doing.
Going back to what we were talking about before with the bodybuilding, and you talked about that first prep. What was that show like? Tell us a little bit about that experience of doing your first show. And like, I can't imagine that's one of the things that, you're really putting yourself out there. You kind of mentioned that aspect too. It's like, this is all the work I've done, and you just show it off to everybody. Was there a little bit of like intimidation, or what kind of emotions were you going through?
Yeah, especially for the first time, I was 100% intimidated and nervous too. And kind of like I talked about earlier when we were discussing it, when I was about 7 weeks out, I got to a point where I was like, maybe I do not want to do this. Like I might quit, but I ended up not doing it. But just the thought, it's definitely intimidating to put yourself up on a stage in a bathing suit, especially for females who are going to be a lot of times in a bikini and more revealed than like someone that is doing like men's physique, where it's just your upper body. You're literally going on stage and having other people judge your body. That could be tough. It could be really tough, and like almost and intimidating is the perfect way to put it, because you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, but you're choosing to do it. So you can question yourself at times. But yeah, so my first show experience, it was definitely nerve-wracking. I think it almost happens to everyone, where a lot of people go to their first show. They have no idea what they're doing. They look kind of awkward. That was exactly me. I was awkward backstage. I was watching what other people were doing, wondering if I should be doing the same thing. My posing was weird. My stage presence was bad. There were a lot of things that weren't great, but overall it is a fun experience, and it made me like it more. And it wasn't as intimidating as you think, because everyone there is there to cheer you on. Like no one's there to tear you down in reality. Yes, people are judging your body, but everyone's so helpful and supportive in the fitness community that I didn't feel that way at all. But my show was a very small one because my first show happened during COVID. So it was very small. It was actually outside, which is very atypical. And but yeah, overall it was a fun experience. And look, I'm back on prep again, and I'm about 5.5 weeks out from a show now, getting ready to do another one, and I couldn't be more excited.
How has this prep been different? What challenges specifically on this one have you faced?
Like I was saying before, which I had a different coach for my first prep that I do now. And my coach that I have now has been like so beneficial. He's so in touch with me. I could tell he cares. And that's the thing I would say to anyone is you want to find a coach who cares about you, because you're putting 110% into this prep every meal. You feel like you're starving yourself. You feel like you're struggling at times. And to have someone that is your coach to be supportive of that and understanding goes miles. And it's just like today, I live two hours away from my coach, but we met halfway today and we got to work out together, do an in-person check-in. We got to pose together. So that was really, really beneficial. But so far, this prep has gone very smoothly for me. And I am crossing my fingers here, knocking on wood. I haven't crossed any boundaries yet. And I think one of the good aspects of that was with the coach that I have, we started my food intake really high up here. And so we're slowly just pulling food away. So my cardio isn't at insane amounts. I know sometimes you see people doing like hours of cardio every day. It's not like that for me. And what we're doing is working because I'm leaning out and the gears are in motion. Everything's setting in place. And yeah, like maybe these next 2 to 3 weeks could get more difficult. But I think because these preceding weeks have been so positive that I'm ready for it.
And does it feel weird that there's like nothing kind of bad or weird?
It does
going
feel weird.
on?
Yep, it feels 100% weird. I almost get the sense that am I doing something wrong? Because you don't feel those factors weighing in on you that you have in the past. Like on my first prep, I remember feeling like I was hungry all the time. I was thinking about food, but in my head, I was like, okay, well, that means my metabolism is up. I'm losing fat. I'm losing weight. So it's working. But like this time, it's kind of the opposite where I'm like, why? I don't feel hungry all the time. I don't think my cardio is that bad. I still enjoy training. But at the same time, as all these good things are happening, my weight and my physique are taking form to what we need, to the goal that we need to achieve. So I think it goes to show that there is a stigma around prep being so horrible and like a suffering process, but it doesn't, as long as you set yourself up right, you have the right coach, you have someone that cares about you and is understanding, it doesn't always have to be like that. What would you say? Just, I know you said you have interviewed so many different people. What is like one of the most commonalities like you've seen that people say they struggle with on prep, or just in general with any type of fitness?
With prep, I would probably say it's the maybe like the mind games, I guess,
Yeah.
That was actually one of the things I posted today or yesterday or something. But yeah, just like thinking, is this for me? And then maybe hitting a plateau or something, your body stops responding. That's what a lot of people said was challenging. It's working up until this point, and then all of a sudden my body stopped responding. That was something else that a lot of people say that is very, and that just goes back to the mind thing. Like, what the heck's going on here? So I would say it's a lot of mentally, mental struggles is what people are dealing with in prep, and I think in general too.
Yeah. The biggest thing I've heard someone say this before, and it really, I say it to people all the time when they ask me how I deal with bodybuilding, like socially and stuff. And I love to say like bodybuilding is a part of my life, but it's not my whole life. And I think if you have that mindset that it's just a part of your life, I'm not doing this as a career. It's just something I enjoy doing. I'm not going to let it control my life or dictate my life. That's when you really separate yourself and allow yourself to live a healthier lifestyle overall.
Definitely. For people who are thinking about getting into bodybuilding, they're into fitness already. They kind of enjoy the lifting side of things. They enjoy taking care of themselves, but they want to maybe take that next step and that next level of dedication into the sport. What would be your advice for that person?
Yeah. So if someone does want to take a next step into bodybuilding and fitness, I would think if you are someone that doesn't feel like they know everything they could know to be successful, or they feel like the things they're doing aren't necessarily working, I think finding a coach is a great tool to have. And it can just be a lifestyle. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding. I think when people think of having a coach, an online coach, they associate it with like a prep and like bodybuilding, but it's not like that. There are coaches out there that are great just for lifestyle transformations. Say you're just not healthy, you're not happy with how you look and maybe your health. And a lot of it does come down to nutrition, and that's where those coaches can be very beneficial because one, for accountability, and two, a lot of times they're certified and that they have the knowledge to give you information that you may not know. It's kind of like, it's almost like trying to take a test in school without studying and not knowing. When you have someone that can help you and almost like be like a tutor to guide you through it, it's really beneficial. And that was the first thing that sparked my whole journey. I seeked out a lifestyle coach. We had great results, and then we transitioned into prepping for a bodybuilding show. And now when I look back on it, it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because it helped blossom my passion for bodybuilding and fitness. And I couldn't be more thankful for it. There is a lot of information out there on the internet and through social media with health and fitness. But one thing you'll see is like not everyone is saying the same exact thing. So it's easy to confuse yourself and think, oh, well, this is working for this person and this is working for that person. But everyone's body is different. And the one thing that having a coach does is that you allow them to get to know your body and what works for your body. And they cater a plan that's specifically oriented and created just for you and your body. So it's going to work great for you. And that's when you're going to see the best results. I mean, if anyone out there that is listening and watches this is looking for a coach, my coach's name is Brooks Clark. He's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm sure you could find him on Instagram if you go to my page and just look at who I follow and some of my posts with him. But he's amazing. I couldn't speak more highly of the guy. His prices are affordable as well. And he's just a great coach overall, a great tool to have, and someone I've developed a friendship with now that I'm very grateful for as well. So my social media is just newman.sawyer. That's my Instagram account. Support small creators, man. I would love to grow my Instagram account. I see all these people doing it. I would love to be able to grow mine, but I always feel free to message me at any time. I go through my message requests all the time. That's how we came across each other, and I always respond to anyone. I always read them to see if anyone has a question, because I just love helping people. That's my favorite thing to do, especially in health and fitness, because it's so much fun to see people see those changes in their own life and to know that you had an impact on them. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to follow my Instagram, it's newman.sawyer. I love to connect and like meet new people on it and talk to everyone. So feel free to reach out if you're listening.